There was things have dealt with physically, emotionally, mentally, um, from for as long as those instances happened. And now that I know what I know about concussion and the potential long-term effects of that, it gives me great passion to be able to assist people with this. Hey guys, Dr. Todd here. Welcome back to the Two Thumbs Up podcast. Today I'm just going solo on the podcast. Wanted to give this a shot and see where this goes. Usually I have a guest, and those type of podcasts are actually, for me, super easy. It's just this great conversation, and I get to ask a few questions and hear someone else's experience. Well, sometimes we don't have a guest, and so I thought I would give this a shot today and see how this goes. But I wanted to kind of take a little walk back in time here. I've been in practice for 26 plus years, and I, through all the ups and downs of it, I've finally found something I truly am passionate about and I love, and that's what we're doing with our Concussion Pros program and the results we're getting with our patients, our testing, and all the doctors that are involved. And I wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit today, but the reason this Concussion Pros program, its beginning started a number of years ago when, actually it started a long time ago with myself and playing high school sports, high school football, and the potential impact that head injuries had on my life early on in my life. And until I started doing Concussion Pros and we started building this idea, I hadn't recognized the possibility that head trauma that I received in high school from playing football, which I love, may have contributed to some of my health things that I started to experience in my 20s and my 30s. As I look back in time, and now that I've done a lot of information digging when it comes to the long-term effects of concussion, some of the symptoms that I've had, I would say can be directly contributed or correlated with some of the head injuries I had. I remember my very first head injury. I was a little kid, and I was popping a wheelie on my bike, and I had just earlier that day fixed my front tire. I pumped up the tire, and it had a hole in it, and I fixed the patch, and I don't know, I was a little dude, and I don't know, maybe 8, 9, and I used to love how I could figure out how to ride wheelies. And if you don't know what a wheelie is, it's where I'm sure you know what a wheelie is. And I remember going down the road, popped the wheelie. I wanted to see how far I could ride it. And as I popped the wheelie, the front tire came off. and I don't even know the front tire came off. And I literally, in my mind's eye, still see this. And the tire's rolling out in front of me. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to come down on the front forks. And we'll see what happens. And so, sure enough, my wheelie ended, and I came down on the front forks, and I flipped over the handlebars as my tires still going down the road, and I came down, and I hit the top of my head on the ground. And I'm like, whoa, and I had some blood. It was okay. I didn't crack my head open or anything, but I was like, oh, geez, that was, it's probably skinned myself up too, but like that was something. It kind of rattled my cage a little bit, rattled my brain, and that's my first recollection of having that type of an injury. And granted, I fixed my bike and was doing more wheelies later that day, but I remember that now as the first time I'd ever felt that, hey, something's just not right here. I felt a little off, felt a little, maybe some dizziness or some stomach ache, or maybe I was just scared, but life went on, had some impacts with baseballs and, definitely in football, starting tackle football in the 7th grade. I remember many times where I'd be hit and I'm like, oh, that wasn't, and back then we just called it, we got our bell rung. right? It was just like this, get up, rub some dirt on it, and keep going. And through high school, I remember after a game, I grew up in Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, and we actually, fortunately, in high school got to play at Autzen Stadium, where the Oregon Ducks play. And I remember coming off the bus after the game, getting back to the high school, and I didn't know where I was. I couldn't figure out what end was up, and the world was spinning. And anyway, I only give that history because, in my early 20s, and then I went to Asia for a couple of years, Taiwan, and believe it or not, I got hit by a bus. And fortunately, I was being watched over that day, and my bike got sucked under the bus, broke my bike off, but the bus's mirror hit my shoulder and launched me here. But I remember hitting the ground and my head, and I was fortunately all right. And like I said, I was definitely being watched over that day. But and then different instances. I got hit by a car in high school, actually in junior high school, coming back from football practice. And anyway, I'm only sharing this because there's been instances where I hit my head on the ground or have been impacted, and there was things I have dealt with physically, emotionally, mentally, from for as long as those instances happened. And now that I know what I know about concussion and the potential long-term effects of that, it gives me great passion to be able to assist people with this, and possibly begin to correlate, head trauma, mild to moderate traumatic brain injury is what we call it, mild to moderate traumatic brain injury, how that can have long-term potential effects on people's lives, as well as correlate those injuries to potential long-term effects. And so a number of years ago, some of the great doctors that we work with, we were seeing a number of these patients, and we decided that we're going to create our own program called Concussion Pros. And Concussion Pros was born. And from that time, we have learned a lot about concussion, and we still don't know anything. There's things that we do know that we didn't used to know, but this is such a vast area of possibilities and ways of looking at this. And the research is coming out now, some of the technology that's available for us to measure. We have a program technology we use called the iBox. It's produced by a company called Oculogica, and it assists us in measuring and looking at cranial nerves 2 through 7. Cranial nerves 2 through 7 are directly involved in eye function, eye movement, everything from vision to pupillary constriction and dilation to the ability for your eyes to move, and all kinds of different amazing things. So it measures cranial nerves 2 through 7. We use balance tracks to measure a person's. It's a force plate where we measure a person's ability to hold themselves in space, the vestibular apparatus, and a number of different tests. We use impact cognitive assessments and different things, which are all fun, amazing tools to use. And we can really, we've got to a point where we can determine if a person's had a concussion or not, because for so long, like I said, it was for years and years and years, it was like, okay, get back out there and play. Oh, you got hit in a car accident out here. It's just your neck. It's just well, the truth is, if there's been enough forces generated to cause musculoskeletal pain in a car accident or a football injury or a soccer injury or a slip and fall on the ice or snowboarding, or recreational sports. And so I guess one of our intentions with Concussion Pros is to bring concussion to the forefront, for people to realize that it's not just a bonk on the head and you're going to be fine. And a lot of times people are, but there is a significant correlation that we're seeing between head trauma and long-term life effects, primary impact syndrome, secondary impact syndrome, tertiary impact syndrome, and on and on and on. You see that in professional sports and different things. But I'm when it comes to professional athletes, even collegiate athletes, well, I would say we've seen a number of collegiate athletes, but in professional sports, I would say they have the experts and the facilities there to assist those people. But beyond that, for us people that are just working hard and doing our life, there's not a ton of resources out there for diagnosis and treatment when it comes to concussion, and that's why we do Concussion Pros. But that being said, the correlation that we're seeing between head trauma in earlier age or later age, and the correlation that possibly has on early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, and those types of things, is a possibility. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the symptoms people get post concussion they can stay in that cycle, everything from post traumatic stress disorder to depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and I feel like and I say this a lot, and there's research out there, information out there that I can see there's a correlation, in my opinion, between possible high school, early childhood brain trauma and later down the road, within months to years, of depression, anxiety, potential suicidal ideation. And I only use those phrases because that was my experience. And it would have been nice to have had that correlation back when I was experiencing those things. And quite possibly it was related to some of the head trauma I received. And of course, everybody has a life and everybody has things that happen as they grow up and they develop, I developed specific beliefs about myself and different things. But like I said, because we're doing Concussion Pros now, I ask the question, what's the correlation between people suffering from those symptoms of depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidal ideation, those types of things, and what's the correlation between that and maybe a history of head trauma? And so that's what's super interesting to me, to begin to make those correlations. And so a number of years ago, some great doctors and I got together. We're like, hey, let's create Concussion Pros and let's make it the best technology for testing, best outcomes for treatment, make it affordable, make it real. And so that's kind of where we've started. And honestly, I love it. We're excited about it. We talk about it all the time. And the truth is, if anybody watches this and you've had an experience with head trauma or brain injury, whether it's mild to moderate or even severe, I would love to have you on the podcast and talk about your experience if you're open to it. Because the more information we share, the more information that's out there, the more information we get. And I wanted to kind of dive a little bit into some of the nuts and bolts of the pathophysiological and the neurological events that happen in a concussion. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds, so to speak, but I'm going to really work at explaining some of this stuff the best that I get it. And we're going to start doing this probably once a week, if not twice a week, where we're talking about about some of the neurophysiological aspects of concussion and how it correlates. And so there's a neurotransmitter called glutamate. When an impact has happened and the brain is hit or concussed, and a concussion can happen obviously front to back. It also can happen in rotation. And so you get these torsional effects or damage to the microvasculature, to the microneurons. And I have seen research where does it not just affect the brain, but it affects the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord and the cerebral spinal fluid and all the meningeal tissue that, all of that beautiful life-giving nerve force. And if the brain is inflamed, the meninges are inflamed, or the nerve tissue is inflamed. And so glutamate plays a big piece of that. And glutamate's an amazing neurotransmitter, and it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. It's actually an amino acid, but it communicates between the synapses and drives the calcium channels and different things. But if glutamate stays in the system, and it's in a chronic state of excitation, it can cause nerve damage to the mitochondria, damage to the nerve cells. And I kind of think of it like this, like, a person's got type 2 diabetes, for example. That's a chronic sugar issue where we're getting damage now to to the body's ability to utilize blood sugar. So the cells say no more, the receptors say no more, and so we end up in this diabetic situation. I think about that, and it's very similar to what I'm seeing with the glutamate issue, where the blood-brain barrier is disrupted. You get this those calcium channels stay wide open or firing all the time, and that's why we see a lot of patients that come in with have these head injuries where they're just wiped out. They're fatigued. They're tired. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their countenance. You can see it in their movements. We get feedback from their loved ones, like this person's just different. And the reason, part of the reason that is because if the calcium channels are always excitatory and the synapses are always firing, the ATP that's burned up, just utilized, there's a high energy expenditure happening with a person post concussion. Like they're just burning through ATPs like crazy, and so there's this excitatory response happening in the brain, and trauma can be a direct result of that. And so, not only just trauma though. I mean, there's metabolic, our poor diet, poor nutrition, obviously head trauma, environmental factors like chemicals and different things those all can cause this glutamate issue in the nerve fibers. However, concussion is a major contributor to that, and if that mechanism isn't, calmed down, through, and some of the things we find out that calm that down is magnesium supplementation, to really taking a look at the person's diet to get the inflammatory processes to chill out, as well as the things we do with vestibular exercises and cognitive exercises and ocular motor exercises. And all of those things we do assist the brain in becoming more neuroplastic again. It gets it communicating again, because when that glutamate hits that nerve cell, and by the millions or billions, it's just overexcited. Over time, it literally causes damage to those cell membranes, those very, very small cell membranes, whether it's nerve tissue, vascular tissue, gray matter, white matter of the brain, specific areas, which is one of the things I love about our iBox testing. The iBox, like I said earlier, it measures cranial nerves 2 through 7. Well, that gives us an idea of which parts of the brain are overactive with this glutamate issue. And so, it's interesting to see, okay, now we can correlate, or we can create exercise programs for a patient based on what we're finding through our testing. And so, this whole thing is there's a whole Pandora's box of things happening here. And so as we kind of dig deeper, it's, we're under this a process of learning too. And so that's why, like I said, I would love to have people that have had experiences or ideas or new ways of seeing things be on the podcast and talk to us about what they've learned. And we have had this huge rise in the last number of years of Parkinson's disease and early onset dementia and different things. And if concussion, which it seems like there's a correlation to us and some of the research we see, if concussion has contributed to some of these problems, wouldn't it be great if we could literally say, oh, let's get on this. Let's get working with these people soon after the injury, so we can get the inflammation down, we can get the glutamate out of those nerve channels, and we can start working with this person. And then the brain, as beautiful as it is, can start to create neuroplastic free ways of new information of doing things. It's like the sooner we get after this, the better the outcomes. And then we combine. I feel like there's a lot more wisdom out there when it comes to our young athletes and different people to be much more conscious of head injury and head trauma and what people are our athletes are experiencing. So, if to get in front of this, what I would call a freight train, and start doing something with this issue of concussion, with really high quality treatment, evaluation, and no, and information. We spend a lot of our time. Our whole marketing staff is out every day, pretty much, talking to professionals about concussion and brain injury, and how that, so to change the paradigm has been a challenge, but it's also exciting to see the light bulbs start coming on, and for us as well, and learning new ways to take care of these folks. But I love this program. I love what we do. I find the human body is a self-healing organic process, and it's super important. It has been for me in my life to learn from my own experiences, my own body. It's, I do this every day with myself, and it's been a process of being honest with myself, because there's days and every day, if I don't use wisdom with myself and what I put in my body, what I ingest, what I do, how I go about my day, which I call it a routine, but it's actually the way I do life. If I don't do it my way, I'm all discombobulated. And so what I would say is, if you have had any type of health related issue, seek out information, but then also do it your way, because nobody has your answers. You're the one that it's your body, it's your experience. Everyone's body is perfectly unique. We may have 2 arms and 2 legs. Our DNA we're very similar, but there's such a beautiful piece of us that is unique, that it's actually, that piece of us is unique. It is what I would call transcendent. It creates the I and the you, and it's that beautiful uniqueness. And so to say one size fits all in healthcare is foolish, in my opinion. To say everyone is perfectly unique is expansive and possible, and it implies that someone's that we are listening, that we see you, hear you, know you, and recognize you. And to experience people, whether it's from a business ownership standpoint, or being a dad, or a husband, or a friend, or whatever this doctor thing is called, or whatever the heck that is, to be able to experience people on that level is a whole different world. And so, as you go about your life, to me, advice is cheap. I really do not enjoy giving advice. I love to ask questions and to experience and to hear what you have to say, to learn along with you. But advice is cheap. But because I know myself and I love myself, and I say that, to love thyself. I think of that. I consider that often, and the reason I even bring that up is because I can see it in the human body, and I can see it in my own experience. And to love the fact that my brain cognates, that my cells divide, that I see, I hear, I touch, I smell, I exist, I have an experience, tells me that there's a whole lot more that I get to be grateful for. And I see that in myself. I see that in others. I building a business, running a business, being a human, experiencing the earth, all these things. There's art happening everywhere. Life is an art form. Running a business is an art form. I think of some of these beautiful businesses that the Apples of the world, and the Teslas of the world, and the Amazons, and all these beautiful these businesses that people have created, to me, are art forms. And so, to me, Concussion Pros is an art form. It's a creation. It's a possibility. And because of that, I see art in it, and I love the people that contribute to it. And so I would say that your body's an art form. And I tell patients, I've said this over the years, that everybody is athletic, whether you choose to be or not. Your body is designed to move. Your body is designed to procreate. Your body is designed to digest and absorb and to experience life and to move in ways that are magical. If you've ever watched a dancer or an athlete, the Michael Jordans, everyone's a Michael Jordan. Everyone is a Michael Jordan. It's whether or not you see it. And it's fun to see that. And it's fun to see when people are going through their process, whatever we're doing here, and they begin to recognize that their body can do that. And quite possibly, they never even considered that before. That, oh, I didn't know my body could do that. I didn't know I could move in that direction. I didn't know there was a thing called neuroplasticity, and I can retrain my mind, and I can retrain my habits, and I can retrain the way I do life. Absolutely, yes. And that, if you're open to it, can be the really, really fun part of loving thyself. And health begins and ends with love thyself. And so I would invite you, not advise you, but invite you to take a look at that and seek practitioners and people in your life that can assist you. They're just giving you information. It's whether if the information works for you or not. Again, back to the whole Concussion Pros idea. We're super grateful for it. We do other things here at the office. Our office is in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and Murray, Utah, and we have a great pain management doctor that comes in twice a month and does some amazing things with injections into the spine and peripheral joints. We also have amazing physical therapists, so we do post-surgical rehab, shoulders, knees, hips, ankles, all of that stuff too. So, but yeah, I would. We'll do these solo podcasts from time to time and just express some information. And today we talked somewhat about glutamate. There's a whole lot more about that I'll probably bring up some other time, and just sort of highlight some of the aspects of concussion and physiology that we see and how that correlates to your life, and just bring some awareness to the whole concept. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and we look forward to, happy Thanksgiving. And again, if you have an experience or a story or something you've dealt with in your life that you would love to share, I'd love to have you as a guest on the Two Thumbs Up podcast, and we can ask some questions and have a great experience and learn from each other. And like I say, there may be 0 people to watch this podcast, and that's actually not even what it's about to me. It's not the number of views. I have this feeling that once the information is shared, it is shared, and it is in the space. It's out, and for however that works, the information is profound and insightful, even if it's just out there. So it doesn't actually have to be heard by the human ear. It can be felt by creation. So anyway, I really appreciate you, and I'm grateful that you maybe take a minute and listen to this. If not, no big deal. I just feel passionate about what we do here and the people that I get to do it with. So love you all. Happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy your families, and we will see you down the road. Take care.